First, we need to understand what stories actually are and what our role as storytellers truly is. The internet is overflowing with screenwriting advice. Everyone has their own opinion on how to write and on the latest tips and tricks to grab the audience's attention. But why do so many writers, successful ones at that, have such conflicting views on storytelling? How can we know who to listen to when everyone has a different opinion on the best writing practices? Without the firm philosophical foundation on what stories actually are and our purpose as storytellers, it is impossible to reconcile the opposing views on storytelling so many successful screenwriters have. We need to understand why we write before we learn how to write. Most of the screenwriting advice on the internet tries to convince you how to write your script instead of helping you understand why you feel an urge to tell your story in the first place. All the difficulties you face in writing your script are not due to missing the latest story structure template or a hack to write great dialogue. It is because you don't truly understand the reason why you need to write at all. We need to learn how to think about stories, not what to think of them. Nobody should give you pre-made answers on how to write, but should rather prompt you to find them on your own. If you learn how to think about stories and your role as a storyteller, you will be able to find all the answers you seek by just writing as often as you can. The most important question we need to agree upon is what stories actually are. Then we will understand our purpose as storytellers as well. The insight that helped me the most with this was when I grasped the difference between story, storytelling, and writing. It took me over a decade and 11 screenplays to realize what stories and storytelling really are. But once I learned it, I could finally translate the story from my mind onto the page in the way it truly deserved. This is the story pyramid. It represents the true hierarchy between story, storytelling, and writing. The whole storytelling process moves from the top to the bottom. It channels the story idea through the storyteller's mode of being and into clear and precise words. First and foremost, we have the story idea itself. A story is a universal truth about the human condition. It is a truth about how one should live their life. It is a journey through which a character understands themselves, their own life, and existence as such. I know I'm getting pretty philosophical, but bear with me. I firmly believe a story is like a platonic idea, a form. It is eternal, universal, an archetype of a human life, not just a random series of events. A story is similar to a mathematical object. Because it is a truth, it is fixed and never changes. Think of it as a triangle. Once you understand the idea of a triangle, you can recognize it in any particular instantiation in this world. Likewise, once you understand the properties of a story, you can recognize every particular manifestation of it. But to prove the properties of a triangle, you have to come up with a proof, a series of steps with assumptions and a conclusion, which are independent of you and your mind, and which anybody can follow on their own. A mathematical proof lays down clear steps which lead everyone else to accept that a triangle truly has unchangeable properties, like three angles which sum up to 180 degrees. But this idea was clear to a mathematician even before he proved it. The proof simply serves to convince other people to accept this truth the mathematician found in the Platonic realm. So it is with stories. The story is clear in your mind because you are in direct contact with it. You know it's true, you feel it. But to get everybody else to accept it, you have to develop a series of steps which people can take without you to grasp the idea themselves. This is the core issue, the proof. The story revealed itself to you, but not to others. To everyone else, you have to tell the story stepwise. You have to prove it. Enter storytelling. It is the way a story is translated into our reality. Storytelling channels the story idea from the realm of Platonic forms and communicates it to other people. Storytelling is your proof. When you tell a story, you actually prove a truth about the human condition by making the audience experience that truth. If the audience connects to the characters and understands their belief and their life, in other words, if they are touched by the story, then you have succeeded in proving your story idea. Coming back to our analogy, storytelling is the story what theorems are to mathematics and logic is to philosophy. They are not only techniques used to prove a truth, but they are also a means of communication and persuasion. The mathematician wants to reveal a truth about the physical world. The philosopher wants to find a necessary truth of what reality is. The storyteller wants to show how a life should be lived. All of you have to prove it. Great stories are just as rigorous as scientific proofs. You are not making stuff up. You are proving a truth about human existence. The proof is the invitation to a journey. It says, come, follow these steps and see where it leads you. You don't know where you are going or how you are going to change. Once the journey ends, you get an insight, in case of mathematics and philosophy, or an emotional response, in the case of a story, independent of the author and as if entirely on your own. Nobody can force you to accept a philosophical argument or the fact that 2 + 2 = 4. You do it because the proof is convincing and irresistible. That being said, the third level to this divide would be the tool used to tell the story. This is the craft. The craft is inseparable from storytelling, but art is not found in the activity of the craft. It is in the mode of being in which that activity takes place. A storyteller is defined by his or her mode of being, not the mode of doing. The doing mode would be the craft, the act of writing. The being mode is in the openness, relaxation, creativity, and inspiration of the storyteller's soul. You are a storyteller not just because you write, but because you channel truth and creativity through your writing. We have all read expertly crafted books or watched professionally made movies which were so uninspired and mechanical that, aside from a firm grasp on the craft, had no soul, no higher purpose, and no contact with the divine. Anyone can write something. ChatGPT sure can, and better than me. But if the craft, the mode of doing, is not in direct contact with the eternal realm of ideas, as true storytelling is, then you don't get art. You just get words governed by probability and not anything divine. Storytelling is an art, writing is a craft. You grasp a story through divine revelation and inspiration, but all of this energy has to pass through the craft. It has to materialize. But without the correct mode of being, the mode of doing does not lead to true art. Back to the analogy. The craft is to the storyteller what the different types of proof are to a mathematician. A proof by contradiction, by construction, by mathematical induction. These are all tools available to the mathematician as the different writing techniques are available to storytellers. Same is true for philosophers. Modus ponens, modus tollens, truth tables, and logical connectives. Just tools of logic through which the philosopher tries to prove a deeper truth which was revealed to them about what reality is. The crucial thing is that they need this deeper truth, this revelation, to truly do philosophy and not just follow logic, which any computer program does as well. You, the storyteller, are a mediator between the abstract idea and meaningless markings on the page. You move between the realm of ideas, where everything is clear to you and you think you are a genius, and the craft, the raw act of writing, which is messy and chaotic and where you will always need to improve. You bring meaning where other people find none. Your mode of being is what truly defines you as an artist. To summarize, a story is an eternal idea. Storytelling is the mode of being which connects our physical reality to the divine realm of ideas. Writing is the craft through which the story is channeled and actually inscribed into this physical reality. Or, more concretely, a story is a truth about the human condition. Storytelling is the proof of this truth, and writing are the methods and clarity of the proof. Now that we know what stories, storytelling, and writing really are, we can draw some conclusions about our purpose as storytellers and how to write a great story. A story is an eternal truth, and storytelling is the proof of this truth. Our purpose as storytellers is akin to that of every other scientist. Just like a scientist, you grasp an idea, a sense of some deeper truth, and now you have to share it with everybody else, because it would be selfish to keep it only to yourself. But to share it with everybody else, you have to prove it. The mathematician succeeds if their ideas are accepted and cannot be disproved. A philosopher if they change people's view on reality. A storyteller succeeds if they make a reader feel, if they make them think, if they make the audience become another person and expand their view of human experience. Storytellers are scientists of the human soul. They find and prove the equations of how the soul expands and contracts. A story is a gift of revelation, and storytelling is an act of understanding. You have a clear vision of your story in your mind because it really is clear and perfect. But you have difficulty in writing this story because you have to tell it sequentially and bound it to the law of causality. You wish to pour it onto the page all at once, but that's not how it works. Because a story is eternal and complete, like all truths, it reveals itself to you all at once. Storytelling, however, is temporal. It unfolds stepwise, piece by piece. This is the main difference I want to point out to you. You didn't invent the idea yourself. You were blessed with it. That's why you don't understand your idea either. The purpose of storytelling is to make the idea understandable not only to your audience, but to yourself as well. You have to first prove to yourself you understand the story. That's why it's so difficult to write it down. You don't truly understand what your idea is. You just have a vision of it. It usually takes me the first draft to understand what my ideas are as well. Storytelling is a mode of being, and writing is a mode of doing. To create art, you have to be in a relaxed creative state of being so that you can channel your story idea into the corresponding mode of doing. Without the proper state of being, you are just making markings on the page, or worse, wasting paper. That's why ChatGPT is such a good writer, but a bad artist. Yes, it can write better than you or me, but it cannot and will never be able to create a unique work of art. What makes you unique is your connection to the divine realm of ideas. You might have noticed already you are different than everybody around you. While everybody else is concerned about what they will do tomorrow or eat for dinner, you are stuck obsessing about something deeper than yourself or this life. You were called to be a storyteller. You were called to expand our view on the human condition. Don't waste it. Tell your story.